You're listening to the Fox and the Phoenix podcast, understanding the feminine cross-dressing experience.
But before we go on, in honor of this episode, um, I am wearing white underneath all of this. And what I did is I pulled out like a very classic bra. That's kind of like that Jane Russell, like in the 80s when it like with you couldn't show a bra on a person, you had to show it on a mannequin stand back before the censorship was like, you can't show that on a woman. That's pornographic. So
Right.
I am wearing something now. When I put it on, it's been in my drawer. I think I got it at a garage sale. It was brand new, that somebody never wore. And I said, "Oh, I'm wearing white, so let me wear a white bra too." And I put it on, and I'm like, "Wow, this really takes me back to an era before, like, I was really kind of deeply entrenched in a full body head to toe experience." And so I thought it was kind of appropriate to this episode because it is something that harkens back to my childhood, harkens back to a different era of like, oh wow, that's very retro. That's very, it has a 50s, 60s vibe to it, like what my mom used to wear kind of thing. And I thought about it and I think it's just one of those things where I think a lot of us can relate because we either have seen our mothers at a glance like wearing like this type of bra, or we've seen it in the laundry after it's been in the laundry and is being folded. So it harkens back to a younger age where we may not have been out, but we appreciated what we were seeing. And it just leads me to this conversation of, knowing that when you were young, but not embodying that until you're older.
Right.
Right. And if you think about it really closely and based on your and my journey together, I really didn't take on a public broad daylight persona until the last couple of years. And that would be like in my late 40s. So while I was in New York in my 20s and in my 30s, going to the club and then the roller coaster of going back in the closet in like my 30s to like early 40s, maybe late 30s, and then like rediscovering myself, but only under the cover of night, in my early 40s before I moved from Long Island, New York to South Carolina. And now, as I hit my late 40s, now I'm over 50. Shh,
Wait, we did hear that. I did hear that.
okay, let me say it again. Now that I'm over 50.
Over 50?
Over 50, yeah. 50 and change, actually coming up on 51 in a couple months. So it's, even I could kind of say that the journey you and I have had together is my coming out later in life. Even though it's not 50, it is later. I took a completely different turn when it came to, well, I'll just go out to the clubs, once it gets dark, it's 10 o'clock at night, and, I feel more protected by the cover of night versus, how the broad daylight can be very, very revealing.
Right. Exposing.
Bright and exposing and revealing
Yeah.
to how you really look in the world. And just taking that leap in the last couple of years to say, no, I think it's more important for me to go to a coffee shop at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, waiting for the church crowd to come in, versus like, I need to go to the club, where everybody's all in the kind of same gist. I'm actually trying to break out of that stigma of it's only okay if you're with people doing the exact same thing you're doing, versus like, no, I'm just going to live in the world and be me. And I think some of what we're going to talk about today is going to be about I finally realized it's important to just be me.
Yeah, I think that I have a couple thoughts that came to me as I'm listening to you. One is that you have a very unique approach to your coming of age story, your cross-dressing coming of age story, because you literally kind of wrote yourself out of the closet. Like you literally wrote your story in terms of where you wish to present present yourself and how you wish to show up in the world. And that is as a teacher, as an advocate, as someone who, like us, kind of created a creative platform for kind of figuring all this stuff out and using your individual story and your desire to be out in the world as an investigative tool. Like you found a bunch of couples and you wanted to learn more, and you talked about where you were and how hard it was to just go to the supermarket, and you kind of put on blast your individual story so that others can realize who they were through your story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is a really unique way to approach it, because it's almost like as soon as you come out, bam, you're an advocate. Bam, you have a book with yourself on the cover. You have a podcast. So you're kind of coming into 50 has been really, really unique, yet it is kind of average when you think about 50 and the 50s era as being kind of a superpower. For realizing that this is the time where you can kind of look at yourself and you can create an entirely different manuscript for who you are and how you wish to be, for your world, for your life, for your existence moving forward.
You can find me on Facebook at Savannah Hauk or at Living with Crossdressing, and on Instagram at Savannah Hauk. Remember, that's Hauk. And to learn more, go to my website, livingwithcrossdressing.com.
And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Fox and Hanger or at Julie MTF Style, as well as on our website at foxandhanger.com.
Julie, it's your moment.
The Fox and the Phoenix podcast uses Anchor. Copyright 2022. Yes, nailed it.